Howdy, everybody. It's time for your favorite show and ours. It's time for Mick's Beer Review, and I got a really awesome show for you guys today. So as we get talking about my favorite subject and yours, and that's craft beer, make sure that you like and subscribe at Mick's Beer Review on YouTube, wherever you might be catching it today. It is really awesome to bring on Mark Fishel. He's the head brewer at the beer company in the state of Alabama that I said last year when I tasted all those beers was the best, and that is Trimtab out of Birmingham. Dude, it is great to have you on here, my friend. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Mick. It's great to be here. Thanks.
Listen, this is, I don't know, we were trying to figure it out today. It's like show 265 or something. So that's all those different beers that we've tasted on the show. And then on top of that, you know, there's a lot of beers that I haven't even put on the show that I've tasted since we did this. But you guys are awesome, man. Like, love
Appreciate that.
The brewery's a cool spot. It's in downtown Birmingham. It's right by one of my favorite swing-by places to pick up beers for the show, and that's Hop City. The brewery has a great ambiance to it. And then when we started this show, and I told you this when I met you at the brewery, I started getting these beers from California and it, you know, these different IPAs. And I just feel like Trimtab's my Alabama West Coast style brewery with some of the really awesome IPAs that you guys do, and you're a part of that.
Wow, thanks, man. That's high praise. Appreciate that very much. we do what we can to please everybody, you know.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, it's not just that too. I mean, you do the sours and you have a lot of the beers, like a really good series of dark beers with different flavors and stuff. And we've done all of those on the show. I mean, the different kinds. But I've just fallen in love with the IPAs. The first, and the reason I wanted to have you on was to drink a beer and talk about it. And this is going to be officially the Kegerator series because you guys are on tap here in the studio. And that's pretty cool, too. Yeah, man. And this is the second Trimtab that we had on. The first one was Theory of Abundance. I loved it. I just loved it.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really great beer.
Yeah. That well, that's been a while. No, it's we definitely like to play and have a lot of fun, and that was, yeah, like I say, it's all about the experimentation and the fun that we can have, produce all these different flavors that people are going to enjoy. Wow, Theory of Abundance. All right. I'm glad you like that one.
Well, look, this, and the one that we have on right now, and this is what today's show's about, it's a beer that has scored all over the country. People like this beer. Double 06, it's an IPA. While you're giving us some background on this beer, I'm going to be paying attention while I'm pouring one from right behind me. But talk about the name. Tell us about this beer, what you put in it, and kind of give us some background on it.
Right. All right. This actually was when the hazy New England craze really got going. So it was one of our early attempts at making one. I'm gonna pour myself one here now too while you're at work.
Look at this.
Yeah.
You got to admit, Mark, that is a hell of a pour right there. Look at that.
That's perfect. Did it just right. Yeah. 006 is just, so early on we started what we called our gallery series, which was meant to be just kind of small in-house releases. This, of course, was number 6. So there's nothing more creative in the name than that. But it's what everybody knows it as. And from the time it came out, people have just loved this beer. One of the big features in it, of course, is, you know, Galaxy as far as the hops. That's big. Dry hop edition, you know, double dry hop. So you get all those big melon, juicy, all those big flavors from that. That stayed with it. I mean, the rest of it's been tweaked just to make it better along the way as we can and scale it up. I don't know. It's it's just done so well. It's hard to say. It was one because it was Galaxy too. We couldn't make it consistently to start just because Galaxy was so hard to get.
Really? Was this during COVID, or was this just a hard hop to find?
No, it first came out probably 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. Like I say, when the hazy craze really started to build, you know, everybody was just trying it out for the first time everywhere. You know, of course, you had the Alchemist doing it up there. Hetty Topper was the one that started the whole thing.
Yeah, and we've had that on the show. Hetty Topper is a great beer from up north, and that one's been like, one of the top 5 beers as far as like the scoring goes for so long, right? And you have to go to the brewery to pick it up. So I didn't realize that this was a Hetty Topper inspiration.
Yeah. Well, like everybody's New England, that's the Alchemist. He started it all up there in Vermont, right? Burlington.
Yeah.
I worked at a little place up in central New York before coming to Birmingham. I've been here 8 years now at Trimtab, but I worked 4 years at a place in New York, and somebody brought one like direct from the brewery. I'd gone up to buy it because at that point, well, like you say, you have to go there to get it. So I had one fresh off the line and was just blown away then. I'd never thought it'd be like the craze that it is now. But with the Galaxy hop, that just 6 years ago, it was still a pretty new hop, and everybody had contracted it out. And if you could find it, it's so expensive. It was hard to make more than just a few at a time and make it profitable.
Right. Right.
So now, though, it's still one of the most popular hops out there, but it's much more available. So we decided.
Well, it's great. It's got a citrusy type of feel to it. I like the hoppiness in this beer. Obviously, it's unfiltered enough where it's cloudy, which I love that as well. How does the process go for guys like me that just love to drink this stuff? What's the difference between doing this and maybe the regular Trimtab IPA, which we were talking beforehand? I think it's one of the most solid IPAs that you're ever going to find. That's not one of the, hey, look, this is the tall. This is just kind of like the normal one. Like it's an Innisfree and Tuscaloosa. I love going in there and getting it, right? Just right out of the tap.
Nice. The big difference, yeast plays a big part of it. Most of your clean IPAs, the West Coast and the real traditional, it's a yeast that just ferments out real clean. And you use like for the grain bill. It's all just real simple, clean grains. For most of your hazies, you're adding big protein type of thing. So you're adding like flaked wheat, flaked oats, anything that's got a high protein content, because that's mostly what's creating this haze. That yeast doesn't metabolize it. You're not using any clarification, filtering it no more than you have to. It's the biggest thing. It's just everything in the kettle as far as building those proteins up. Then you use, again, a different style of yeast that leaves more of that behind. The hop, when you hop, makes a big difference too. You hop a little earlier than you would with a traditional IPA, and hop a little earlier because you also want some of the biotransformations with the yeast and the hop flower. So you're getting more of that punchy, juicy flavor and aroma.
Nice. So, when you started brewing, were you a big beer drinker, or was this just something that you did because you're kind of good at the chemistry part of it? And have you fallen in love with this? I mean, because me, and a lot of the people that do the show and that are part of this, we love it so much. Like it's, being in baseball, that kind of pays the bills. But this is, for me, just a lot of fun talking to guys like you and seeing how you've perfected something that we all love.
Right. So for me, and it's probably not too unusual a story, but I grew up in Colorado, like Loveland, Fort Collins area. So there was a lot of beer available, and I enjoyed a lot of beer. We had Odell's and New Belgium. We're all just up the road. So it was easy to get really good, interesting beer. And it one day struck me. And always have enjoyed making things, bread, whatever, doing things with my hands. So making my own batch of beer seemed kind of natural. Gave it a try. Just started home brewing, and it wasn't until I moved to New York and did a lot of moving around with my wife at the time, academic, and just needing to find something to do. And this little place opened up, and I walked in and said, "Hire me. I'm needing a job, and you're looking for, help." So that was my start in the professional career, really.
Oh, wow.
And then moved here. Yeah. So, I mean, it's just a lot of good fortune, and just, love creating the different flavors and the product itself. It's as much making something that people enjoy as enjoying it myself. So
When you made 006, first time you taste it, did you realize, like, hey, man, this was going to be a beer that people were going to be lining up at the door? When you guys brought it back, I mean, it was like everyone in Birmingham's going crazy. Like, hey, they're bringing 006 back, which I figured it was, a secret agent. Not 007, but 006, right?
right,
Same group
yeah.
that had given you the recipe. But did you know that, like, people were going to be this fired up and that it was going to score so high in the different beer competitions?
I mean, it definitely has exceeded our expectations in that way, I think. I mean, we knew it was a good beer when we first made it. It was the original recipe and design was actually a guy that no longer works here, Jordan Harville. He was over at Monday Night. One of his designs, like I say, we've done our thing to it just to make it scalable and all that. But he's a really talented brewer, and we knew as soon as it came out that it was something to be enjoyed and was going to be popular. But definitely, like I say, exceeded our expectations.
Yeah, no doubt.
When the reviews started coming in, it was crazy. National magazines. It was like a little place in Birmingham, Alabama. We're like, too much. It's crazy.
Yeah. But I think that's what's cool about the craft beer industry is that you don't have to be the biggest brewer of beer to be someone that puts out a great product, and
no, it's true,
that captifies the audience of people that love beer in that market. And the other cool thing is that it's, and look, maybe it's just as kind of a deadhead myself, is I like the fact that it's underground, that it's not all about, being in your face, and not saying that you don't market it, but I don't have to see 100 commercials and everybody doesn't drink it. It's kind of cool that a select group of us kind of know what's going on with this, You really kind of have to be in it to know what the good stuff is.
Right. Yeah. It's the power of social media right now, especially, right? It just, like you say, it's so much better. And it just, the craft brewing industry is great because it's all about trying new things and really a community that is just fantastic. Like even within Birmingham, we know if we need something, we can call somebody down the street and they're going to help us out, and I feel like it could go anywhere. Like I've walked into places anywhere I've gone, sat down and said, oh yeah, by the way, or said, I happen to work, and it's always immediately, there's this rapport and this conversation. You're just like part of the family. So.
I got into baseball as a kid, I used to meet baseball players. It was like the coolest thing, now I'm an adult and I meet guys like you that are the head brewer at Trimtab, and I'm like, hey, this is great. I just want to kind of talk about this. I almost want you to autograph my glass, So man, this has been great hanging out. Let's talk about the art, the can art.
Sure.
When I do the show, one of the things that I do great on is can art. I like the creativeness. I like stuff that looks cool. Love the colors of this can. You guys do a lot of really neat stuff. Who designs these cans, and how much thought goes into it? Not just this one, but any can art.
So Brad Reed does all our label design, and he came from a design background anyway, and got into beer. He just super talented. As far as the colors and all that, we wanted to go pretty simple. If you look at some of our older cans, the IPA and Paradise Now, you'll see that chevron in different places, and that's all this was kind of to invoke. So you've got that kind of that angle coming in there. The gold and the black, we just wanted to make it nice and classy. So it just, and as far as the design, I don't know, Brad, if you need him to, he can knock it out in a couple of hours, or you give him more time, you're going to get something even better. So
when you design a beer,
so he worked in fashion. So
look, it's cool, man. When you design a beer, are you looking at it and going, hey man, like this matches my beer. Like I think this is kind of cool. Like this is like you know what I'm saying? Because you make a beer, you
Yeah.
don't make a label, but the label's what we
Right.
as buyers like we look at it and it kind of defines the beer.
Right. Yeah. No, it's again, that's I think some of the magic that Brad does. Anytime we design a beer, we've got our little places we put. So we've got the label designer, label planner, and we just kind of come up with a name, and that gets batted around with everybody, and put in a description of the beer itself. The flavors that are going to be in it, the style, and all that. And Brad takes that and just creates these things, shoots out his ideas, and we all kind of take a look and go, yeah, that's the one right there. So.
And go with it from there. All right, let's talk
Exactly.
about the alcohol content and the IBUs. I got it at 8.5 and 50 IBUs.
Yep.
Is that correct? And then what goes
That's
into
correct.
that part of it? How do you, as the guy that's brewing this beer,
Right.
determine that, or does the beer determine that?
A lot of it, yeah, it goes to style. I mean, originally the 8.5, that was a pretty typical kind of ABV for this style of beer, double dry hop, double IPA. So it's got to be 8.5 or better. As far as the IBU with the New Englands, the hazies, you back off of that a little bit because you want to push more the sweetness, because you want more of those big juicy fruity flavors.
Right.
But you still want just enough bitterness to kind of balance that and keep, so you've got, when it hits the palate, it's not too much of one thing. So that's all the IBUs, and that big a beer is going to have a lot of residual sweetness, just because there's a lot of the sugars that don't get fermented out. So that's going to be in there, and you just kind of figure out what's going to be best.
How do you change as you're brewing a beer?
Yeah.
The IBUs and the alcohol level. Is that a process that, when you taste it and you're like, hey, or you test it and you can change, as you're brewing the batch? How does all that work?
That really comes in the design. I mean, it's where the chemistry and the science comes into play.
Right.
So all the hops have a certain acidity level, the alpha acids, and that's really what helps determine a lot of the bitterness or some of the flavors and aromas. So the longer it's in the kettle when you're making the beer, the more bitterness you derive from the hops. So there's an equation for that. We've got software that helps design that. You just plug in your IBUs, the amount, and that'll or the alpha acid level, and that will kick back kind of the IBUs you can expect.
Nice.
So, and as far as the sweetness, the rest of it, the ABV, that is how much grain you put in, and the yeast that you use, how much it's going to convert, the sugars into alcohol.
Man, this is awesome. Well, tell me about Trimtab. Just give me kind of the breakdown of what Trimtab's all about. To me, it's about great beer, but for someone that works there and has been part of this growing, I think, like I said, I rated all the beers last year, and you guys were number one. And I mean, I'm always impressed when I walk in there. And I always tell everyone that I see in there, look, it's not like I'm just a guy that's just had a beer. I mean, I've had a lot of beers, and I think there's some really great companies. It's not, and I'm not putting anyone else down, but my taste, and I tell people, hey, Trimtab's the best. I've never had one person go, no. It's always like, yeah, they are great. Tell me about Trimtab. I'm just going to drink this while I'm listening, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually just had our ninth anniversary. So we've been around that long. It was a passion project of Harris Stewart. He's the founder of the company. And the name Trimtab kind of gives you the whole direction of the company, really. It's from Buckminster Fuller. I don't know how many people are really familiar with him anymore, the guy that designed the geodesic dome. But there was an essay that Harris read when he was in law school at UA that just impacted him a lot, that talked about so Fuller was on a ship, and he was at the back end of it watching the rudder, and he noticed the ship was about to make a turn. And he saw on the rudder there's a smaller portion of it, and airplanes are the same, that turned first, so the ship started moving, and then the full rudder turns and makes this. So that little piece is called a trim tab. And Fuller was like, this is what I am. I am just one person that's making small changes, but everything I do is going to lead to a bigger change. So that's kind of the whole idea and direction of this company, is that we're all here. We're all trim tabs. We all make a difference just in being who we are, the choices we make, and we just want to make a product that everybody's going to enjoy and take out there. And that philosophy, if they look up a trim tab and Buckminster Fuller, then they're going to see what that means, and hopefully they'll take that to heart and take that with them.
Mark, awesome, man. Great hanging out. Thank you, dude. I've enjoyed the beer. When I have people come over, they're going to enjoy it too, because it's on the Kegerator right now, and I'm thoroughly impressed, not just with this particular beer, but with a lot of the stuff that you guys do. And, man, cheers to you. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Cheers, Mick. It's great to talk to you.
Awesome, and let's do it again, man. Next beer that comes on the Kegerator, let's jump on and talk about that too. But keep up the great work, man. I mean, really, it's so refreshing when I walk in there and I try the different beers that you guys have. And then I've got a couple of your hats, so I'm going to walk around. I'm like a billboard for Trimtab. But
nice.
Mark, you're the man,
Well,
man. Thank you so much, dude, and thank you for being on the show.
Absolutely, Mick. It was a pleasure talking to you, and can't wait to do it again.
Hey, guys, thanks for hanging out with us. Make sure that you do me a solid and like on YouTube at Mick's Beer Review. We're going to do a lot more of this stuff. Maybe check out some of the old shows, but we really appreciate it today. Cheers to all you guys, and we'll talk to you again real soon.